Hey guys, it's Carmen and James, and we're going live. Sorry, we're going live a few minutes late. We had some finishing up dinner and then had some technical difficulties. So just waiting to get a couple people on before we start. If you are on, hit let us know you're here. Hit the like button. We'd love to. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Crystal. How's it going? Wait, hi, Katie. Thanks for the love. Just waiting on a little bit. So hopefully your guys' day has gone good. We went to the pool. It was, I think, it got to 106 degrees today?
Yeah, like 110.
Yeah, so pretty hot. So we enjoyed the day at the pool with our kiddos before coming home and having some yummy fish tacos for dinner. So just waiting for a couple more people to join on. So tonight is our first live that we are technically doing, right? Like last week we went and shared our news with you, what we were wanting to do, what God has placed in our heart, and about doing a marriage series together and just kind of sharing our tips and what we're learning along the way. But also, so last week we told you kind of our background story, right? Kind of like how we met. And tonight, or just to kind of go over what like this marriage series is going to be about, we kind of see it like a coffee talk almost, or maybe a wine talk, because coffee's probably a little bit late this time. Sorry, my phone. So, come comfy, grab some wine, right? Join in and maybe hopefully learn a thing or two, or to hear our message, our crazy story of our life together and how we deal with marriage, and just kind of some of the things that we've implemented, right? So tonight's topic that we decided to start off with is expectations. And this kind of resonates, I feel like, regardless of what kind of relationship you have, whether you are married, you're not married, it kind of even just goes how you interact with other people. How many of you have expected a certain situation to go a certain way, right? Like you kind of play it out in your head. I know for women, like I know my mind's always going, right? Like I'm always thinking, okay, whether it be like a party or we're getting ready to travel or we're going somewhere, you kind of just play it out in your head. You kind of think, okay, these are the things that are going to happen, kind of thing. And how many times has it happened where it doesn't play out in your head and you maybe get disappointed or discouraged or even mad, anger, hurt, any of those kinds of emotions? I think that really plays out in marriage, especially kind of small things, not, definitely big things, but a lot of small things. For example, so what I'm talking about is, like when you're going traveling, right? Like when you go to travel and you individually think about how, okay, one person like me as the wife, as the mom, I need to get myself ready. I need to get the kids ready. I need to pack. I need to do this, da. And then sometimes the guy's kind of like, oh, I need to tinker with this. I need to go fix this. Then I need to get a shower, and then I'll load the stuff up in the car and get in. But you guys don't always necessarily communicate that, right? Like you don't verbally communicate. And so when your wires get crossed, it turns into you have issues, right? So that's just one example. Or you guys basically have different expectations of what needs to get done, and you don't necessarily say those things. You just kind of assume that your partner or your other person knows what you're talking about, right? Another one can be free time. So, we talked about like when you guys have free time, maybe you have a couple hours in the day or in the morning, like the kids are gone, and one of you expects to have sex. Or has a certain expectation of what's going to happen. And if you don't verbally communicate that, I mean, as parents, right, we would like to, it's not romantic to think that you have to plan stuff out, especially even, oh no, are we still frozen? Katie, can you still hear us? Can you guys hear us? If you guys can comment below and let us know if you guys can hear us. Hopefully we're not frozen still. Are we frozen on your end? Can you hear us? Just comment below and let us know if you can still hear us. Okay, yay. Masumi can hear us. Hopefully. So kind of going, okay, awesome. Yay, Katie, I'm glad you can. So kind of just going back, like sometimes, that even pertains to, like I said, sex, like, or free time, and thinking that, one of you is like, okay, in my head, like, this is how it's going to go down, or you're expecting to have sex at the end of the night or whatever, whenever. And if the other spouse doesn't know, then feelings can get hurt or whatever. You know what I mean? So and this can even pertain to how you guys raise kids. I know that, like, for James, like, I'm a single parent half the week. And so how I'm home with the girls all day long. I parent a certain way, or they're used to me and the what I do things. And then sometimes there's an adjustment of when James comes home, and it's huge that we're on the same page, that we expect the same things, right? So expectations, like I said, a lot of it is we're inside of our own head. We think that it's going to go a certain way, and we just assume, that our spouse is going to read our minds. Even now, like, it's something that we still do, where I expect it to go one way and he expects it to go another, and then we start to bicker, right? And we start to fight. This even pertains to before you get married. I think that's a big reason why when you go into marriage, a woman expects, one thing and a man expects the other, something different. And why, we think it's going to be a fairy tale. And we kind of honestly go into it thinking about what the other person can do for us instead of more we can do for them, right? But it's our expectations that and there's nothing wrong with having expectations. I mean, you should, right? You should have high expectations. But the problem comes down to is when you don't communicate and you don't verbally say or make your spouse aware, your partner aware, that this is what I expect, and being open to that discussion. And like I said, for us, I kind of feel like, right, don't you think, that during it's the little things that kind of where you get mixed up, or you're not paying attention, or you're in your own head. I know, like I said, as a woman, I'm constantly running through a list of like, okay, this is how it needs to be done. I'm kind of more take charge, right? Hi, Ray. And it goes a certain way where he's maybe expecting something different, and then our wires cross, and then we get into a fight. So what do you think? Have any of you guys, is it resonating with what we're saying? Makes sense? Have you guys had that issue in your relationship where you go into a situation expecting something and playing out in your mind, especially for people who are kind of like type A, right? Like analytical, perfection. James is in his own head now. Can you hear us okay? I'm sorry our connection went out. We'll have to do this again downstairs instead of upstairs, it seems like. Hi, Mom.
Right now.
Yeah? Okay. So if you guys heard, hopefully you've heard, I don't know what you've heard, but we're talking about expectations and just how we can kind of get in our own heads and not verbally communicate to our spouse what our expectations, and from the very beginning of what we think marriage is going to be throughout life, raising kids, all of that stuff. So those of you who hopefully can hear us and it's not freezing, I know, Masumi, have any of you guys ever experienced that? Like, do you guys know what we're talking about? Does that hit, like, make sense or resonate with you at all? Hopefully you can hear us. Oh my gosh. What a way to start off our first night, right? Woo! So, hopefully, I know it's probably a little delayed. Can you hear us? Masumi, can you hear us? I know you're still on. So hopefully you guys can still hear us. Babe, is it still going on yours? Okay. So, and when you think about that, like, it's so easy, like, with all the distractions that we have between social media, TV, to just kind of like not stop and think, like, you guys are running life side by side, right? But it's so easy to just sit there and think that the other person knows, you know, hey, I know, like, you expect the same thing as me. Like I said, we still do it. I'll go through and it's like, okay, we've been together long enough, like, right? You know what I'm expecting. Like, why wouldn't you think it's going to be the same outcome that I can think? Awesome. Yes, Sandy, major communication issues with expectations of each other. And if you don't stop and say, okay, hold on, because it's easy, like, especially if you're having a bad day, right? Like, if one of you's having a bad day, and you don't, your expectations of a situation is different and it comes out. Yes, forgetting to have the combos to be in your head. Yes, Masumi, that's coming through. Yay, thank you guys. We have more issues in the last year, mostly when we have kids. Yeah, parenting is a big thing. Like, kids are so rewarding, right? But at the same time, they change your relationship, and it's definitely something that can cause you to distance yourself, or where you have to really make sure that you come together with your communication and your expectations of not only how do you raise a kid, because all of that, what we expect how a marriage to look, how to raise kids, comes from our own upbringing and what we were taught, what the examples that we were given. And James and I come from very different backgrounds. I come from a very loud, big, social family. You know my family's on, right? Yep. And then he comes from a small family where it's just him and his sister, where they're not, obviously they're not as loud. Like, we're Latino, right? Like, we're Puerto Rican, so we're loud, and they're not. And he used to tell me when I would come to visit my family, that as soon as I crossed the threshold of my house, my voice would raise 10 octaves. I still think even sometimes now he's like, he'll ask me, why are you yelling at me? And I'm like, after 12 years, you still don't understand when I'm yelling and when I'm just talking. But anyways, so there is, expectations. It comes down to communicating, and it sometimes feels like, okay, it's not a big deal when it's the small stuff, but I feel like that's the stuff that makes a huge impact, right? Where you can slowly start to distance yourself or get off the same page or kind of go down different paths when you're not stopping and saying, okay, why? Why are we fighting? Why are we bickering? What is it? Even if it's over, a lot of times it's honestly over stuff that's kind of dumb, right? So stopping and saying and being open to it. And I know that's so much easier said than done, because when you're in the middle of when you're in a bad mood, or you've been hurt, or you're discouraged, it can be very like a pride thing, right? To stop and say, okay, what's going on? But I feel like the more that you can do that, the sooner that you can do that, the better off you are in building that communication, and not being so prideful. James and we were very prideful in the beginning of our marriage. I think it's something that we've worked on, where we both have very strong personalities, and so it's easy to just always feel like we're right? Like, to not want to give in to the other person or to back down, don't you think?
Yeah.
So, sorry, this is not, we need to get it better set up. Ryan says hi, James. So yeah, what do you guys, any thoughts on that? Any more thoughts? Do you guys agree? It sounds like some of you totally get that, right? But for me, that was kind of like a big aha moment, is, it's so easy just to to go in and assume that the other person, especially as the longer you get along, like the longer you are in marriage and you're together, you kind of just assume like, well, you should know me by now, you know, like what it is, and you do learn more about each other. But I think that kind of also can set you up for just assuming what the other person, and I feel like as we grow, we change a little bit, so it's imperative that you guys come back together, that we come back together and talk about it. And obviously, right, communication is a big thing. That's kind of a no-brainer but it's so much easier to know that, to think that, than to actually put it into place and what that looks like in your marriage. So I think sometimes just taking, you know, if you are a prideful person, to stop and say, okay, let me extend the olive branch, even if it's not your fault or whatever it is that you are, you know, the expectation wasn't met, but coming back and saying, stopping and saying, okay, like what did you expect to happen? What did I expect to happen? Kind of thing, and coming together on for future what that looks like. Because again, your background and everything, how you were raised, smile, James. They think you're grumpy right now. He's just tired. It's been a long day. But it plays a huge part in just what your beliefs are, what your expectations are. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's, you know, ask yourself, have you clearly communicated to your spouse what you expect to happen? Like, I know, like, when we travel, I have to be like, okay, this is what I'm expecting to happen. Like, what do you think? Because travel for us is something that makes us, like, get tense. Getting, you know, all the kids out the door. I mean, parents, you guys know, right? Like, anytime you travel, you tend to bicker a lot more because the stress is high. If you have a stressful job, all of that kind of stuff. When you put just life in general into it. Dante says that he likes your shirt. His shirt says "Porn kills love." He actually gets a lot of compliments on that shirt whenever we go anywhere. People stop him and tell him that they like it. So anyways, so, you know, do you just want to come back and, you know, for future things, or if you find that you bicker about like the same thing over and over, it's probably because you guys each have different expectations of how something's supposed to play out or what the end result is, and just coming back together and discussing that and kind of being open to the other person, right? It seems so simple, but it's, like I said, it's the little stuff that tends to get where the crosswires, you know, happen, and then bickering and, you know, feelings and all that stuff gets mixed in, and then you can end up further apart instead of together and back on the same page. So that's all we had to talk about tonight, you guys. I'm sorry about the freezing, but thank you to those of you who stayed on live with us and joined in. If you have any questions, you guys can go ahead and post them down below. Hopefully we can see them. And I know I'm a little bit delayed. We have it on James's phone, so I'm assuming that you're a little bit behind, but we'll stay on for a little bit to see if you guys have any questions. Drop them below, or any comments, or any cop face, James. Yes, he that's something he just falls back on, right, Uncle Ray? Thanks, Masumi, for the love. We love you. So, does any of you guys have you guys had situations like that where you each, you know, expect one thing? We have it happen quite often. So it's, again, we're not experts. It's something, you know, each situation's a little bit different, but it is something good for if you have those type of situations happening over and over and over again, to kind of think. I mean, we still have good talks about some of the beliefs that he has just from the way he was raised, and some of the beliefs that I have. And to be honest, we're kind of, like, a lot of times we're kind of complete opposites. He's a little bit more prudish and traditional than I am. You know, our values, I think, are still the same, but as some things that we have, the way we look at things can be very different. So it's important for us to kind of come back and be like, okay, why do you think that? And try to find a meet somewhere in the middle. I mean, it's not always easy, but we definitely try. So, all All right, guys. Well, I think that we've given you long enough. I don't think anyone has any questions, but if you do, we're both so hard-headed and stuck in our ways that majority of things we can't seem to come together on. Do you have any tips or advice in handling something like that? You know, for us, what's worked for us, honestly, is letting that go, letting your pride go. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that will probably work on your entire marriage or your entire relationship together. But I find that when your heart, like when you're trying, it's like, you know, you want to keep score. You're competing with each other, like I'm right, and you want the other one to give in first. And sometimes, a lot of times actually, it's you letting that go and not being prideful, because who wins? If you're holding on to that pride, if you're holding on to being right, like who wins? It doesn't benefit either one of you. Like you get to say at the end of the day, like, yeah, and I know feelings like I said, that's easier said than done. We've definitely gone through that. And you know, there's still times where we get off course in that in regards to that. But your goal is right to, you know, for us is to have God first and build that foundation and be Christ-like, right? We strive to be Christ-like. And so it's putting him first and coming back and honestly kind of just asking like what he would do. And it's letting it go. It's letting that pride go and extending that olive branch. At least that's kind of like what I felt has worked. We're not perfect. We still get prideful. There's still times where, you know, I want to give him the cold shoulder or he wants to give me that, you know, just depending on what the situation is. But I think it really just comes down to extending the olive branch and letting it go and saying, you know, regardless of who is right or wrong, just discussing what the issue is at hand. And sometimes that just takes time.
Gotta communicate. Gotta communicate.
Yeah.
You have to meet in the middle. You have to communicate.
Yeah.
Keep the communication open. You don't want to shut off, go disappear in a room, you know, and just sit there and let it fester.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing with us is at the beginning, you know, we would go into different rooms and just sit down and it would just fester and fester. And there's sometimes we wouldn't even talk for a couple of days, you know. It's in that communication, that's one of those points that we had to establish is, you know, if we have a disagreement or whatever the case may be, the expectation for us is to get back together and to talk about it and work it out.
Yeah.
And meet in that middle if we have to. Either it's compromise. It's a give relationship.
Katie, that is a perfect example. Yes, I have to remind myself that if someone needs to change, the only person I can make do that change is me. Yeah. When I pray, like and this is when I can be severely just pissed off at James. Like when I pray, I don't pray for God to change him. I pray for God to change my heart and to show me where I can improve. Because a lot of times that's what it is, right? He's working on your heart, and it takes two to tango. Even if I feel I am right, even if I'm like, no, he was wrong, you know what I mean? I still pray. And again, this can kind of go not just in your marriage, but in any relationship. I pray like for God to show me where can I improve? Like how can you change my heart in this situation? What am I not seeing? And where can I see? You know what I mean? And coming together and discussing that. So, and Ray just talked about a few comments back about, you know, they've been married for 44 years and they're still figuring each other out. I think that's so true because, again, I think as you grow up, you change. You know what I mean? You're not the same person now. Like, you know, we're a little over 30. Like, we're not the same people that we were at 20. So you're constantly changing, and it's constantly changing. How do you learn that together? And there's different things that, you know, you fall in love with, you know, passions, like whatever. As you go along, you change your mindset on different things. And so it's definitely learning how to do that together and how to come back and still be in love with each other, still pursue each other, still be happy, and not live as roommates or be unhappy or, you know, want to separate. So yeah, definitely. So that's what I would do as far as when, you know, you're both just, you know, strong-willed and very prideful, is, you know, just, you know, you have to stop and you have to talk. As tough as that may be, it's learning, and it's a learning curve. It's not going to be easy. And I definitely feel that at those times is because, especially when you're working on something, that's when the devil definitely wants to attack, right? Like he doesn't want you to get better. He doesn't want you to improve, because if he can cause dissension and chaos and all that stuff, then he's doing his job. He wants you to believe those lies that, you know, you guys aren't meant to be, or you're not meant to work this out, or that you're right, he's wrong, he's right, you're wrong, you know, she's wrong, all of that kind of stuff. So that's when you have to fight. That's when you have to fight. You have to fight to learn those habits, just like anything else. It's not that it necessarily comes naturally. You know, there's going to be things, finances, there's so much stuff that when you have two different people, you have to come together. So
it's Sandy, it is tough. That's kind of one of those points where it comes back to the biblical standpoint that, you know, you have to come before God. You pray, you know, you pray with God, and just pray that it changes his heart. You know, that you have to be there for him, be encouraging to him, and it's going to be tough. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and you've already experienced that. But on the flip side, you know, we haven't had to experience that too much. We were both very strong in our faith when we got together. The fact of, we kind of laid out the expectation of, you know, God's going to be first for our relationship. But prayer is amazingly strong, and continually like praying about that aspect of it, and just always come before God. And God will deliver what he needs your heart to pursue. Yeah. So always pray.
Prayer is very powerful, and I think sometimes we disregard it to be so. And it's something, I mean, the Lord definitely knows the hearts of your, you know, the desires of your heart, and he hears your prayer. And, you know, we want such an instant gratification, right? We want it to happen quickly, but God's time is not our time. And so we just have to be patient and have faith that he is going to deliver, you know, and that he has a plan. But Alex commented on a really great book, and they actually have it for both, but even if your spouse isn't a believer, is The Power of a Praying Wife. And it's a great devotional. And it's even something great, like if you do on your own or you do with other wives in the church. But it is a really good book, and something that I would recommend. And they also have The Power of a Praying Husband too. So if you guys wanted to do it together, you could. But Sandy, in your case, yeah. So I would just continue to pray for him, and I would also pray and ask God to show you like how you can continue to be an example for him in those moments, and for your heart to not get hardened or discouraged, right? So
and share it with other people too. I mean, the power of prayer is amazing. So if you have other people with you that are, you know, able to pray with you and pray for the same thing, God has done amazing things that I have personally seen just through the power of prayer. And it could be the smallest things, and it's just spending time with him and talking with him, and he changes the world. Yeah, and he'll change your world in just that small time.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining on live with us. And, you know, you can definitely catch the recording, especially if we were freezing. I'm so sorry. But join us next week, and we will be delving in and talking a little bit about divorce and how that's played a part in our marriage. Hi, Heidi. Next week. Thanks, Sandy. At 7:30, so Monday of every 7:30, and again, it's going to kind of be just like a marriage talk. So we look forward to having you guys there, and share this with anyone that you think would help, who would love to join us. Thanks, Katie. I'm glad that you thought it was great. All right, you guys, have a great night. Thanks for joining in live. Bye.